Hi, Tim from Fair Play Now, 24th of March 2021, and it's the day after the 1 year anniversary of the first UK lockdown. And luckily I didn't really know about this until after the fact, but there was apparently kind of a thing where everybody was standing out in their street and doing a minute's silence sort of thing because of all the sort of COVID situation. And I know there's quite a lot of people who think along the lines I do, who are quite sort of fed up with that whole sort of thing, just think it's sort of sign of the whole propaganda thing. Luckily it kind of passed me by. I didn't really know what was going on, as I say, until after the fact. But I'm just sort of wondering what makes people like you and me immune. And I'm going to put it down. I'm going to put it down to two different reasons, and both of these reasons kind of tie in with a little couple of videos I did some time ago about psychology. I talked about something called social proofing, and I talked about something called authority. And I think it's those two psychological factors which has made the vast majority of people compliant, and a minority of people, and yes, we are in a minority, unfortunately. I'm not sure if we form kind of 5% of the population, 10%, maybe 20% maximum, I'm going to guess at, but it's a minority. And it's because the best way to explain it is because of these psychological factors of authority and social proofing. So authority, and obviously it's the government and other people in authority telling you, yes, you know, it's going to be a good idea to do this minute's silence and all the rest of it on the 23rd. So people are going to obey authority. But it's also social proofing, otherwise known as peer pressure. And I do believe there is a lot of peer pressure going on with this as well. Oh, everybody else is doing it, I better do it. And there's even instances where people are actually pressured into it. You know, you're made to feel by people around you that, you know, if you don't do it, they're not going to be very happy with you. Especially if you're on these Facebook community groups. I've actually heard a friend of ours talking about that, and she didn't really know about the clap thing originally, and she missed out on the first one or two of them back in the spring there last year. And she went onto this Facebook community of hers in her local area, and apparently she and her family were getting absolutely flamed. And she kind of went on there and said, oh, sorry, I didn't realise it was a thing you had to do. Oh, sorry, I'll be out there next time. And sure enough, the rest of them, out she went, doing the clap with everybody else. So I think that is a lot to do with it. So what makes people like you and me immune when so many people aren't immune to this? Well, I think, as far as I'm concerned, is I've got a very healthy disrespect for authority and the mainstream narrative. And I always have. I know probably it's because I went to this school which was very, very authoritarian. And I'll tell you a funny story why. It's probably almost the most authoritarian school in the whole country. Sort of back in the early 80s, and the school I went to was actually in the Sun newspaper. I think it's either 1980 or 1982. It was in the Sun newspaper because my school had the most canings out of any school in the whole of the UK. Wacko Academy was the Sun headline. And it just went on about my school and how the headmaster used to sort of love sort of caning as many people as he could, and how there are so many of them. And it's true, you know, the headmaster ruled the school and everybody in it with a rod of iron, and I hated it. I did manage to avoid the cane myself, sort of very narrowly at one point, but I just hated authority. Couldn't wait to get out of the place when I was 18, and as soon as I got to that age, I kind of went out and sort of felt like a weight had been lifted off me. And I kind of vowed to myself I'm never going to get into myself into a situation where I'm so subject to such overbearing authority as this again. So I think that's one part of why I've got this sort of disrespect and distrust in authority. And then peer pressure. I'm kind of fairly immune to peer pressure as well. And if people sort of think I'm an arse, frankly, I don't really care. And I've put that back to school days as well. I never really got into many fights at school. In fact, I really only ever got into 2 fights in the whole of my time at school. Both of them I kind of came off better on. It's probably not really surprising because of the size of me. Not started by me. It was people trying to pick on me and picking a fight with me and provoking me to the extent where, stupidly, I guess, I got into these fights. And both times it transpired that the kids I was in the fight with were very popular kids at school. So when everybody else in the school heard that I'd kind of been in this fight with their sort of mate, basically, and I'd come off better, all of a sudden I found, well, not the whole school, but a lot of the school were sort of gunning for me. And it got to the stage where, it felt like really the whole school was against me, and I was out on my own pretty much as an outcast. Didn't last long in the grand scheme of things, and it seemed like it lasted forever back then, but it was probably only a week or 2, and then everything went back to normal and people just forgot about it. But that happened twice, and that, I think, gave me a kind of an immunity to social pressure and peer pressure. And I just kind of think, well, if people don't agree with what I'm about, what I'm saying, or they just don't like me, I'm sort of, oh well, tough, plenty more fish in the sea, I don't really care. So I think they're the 2 reasons why I'm immune to everything that's going on now, why I'm so skeptical. And it's because one, I've got a very, very healthy disrespect of authority, and number 2, kind of peer pressure and social proofing doesn't really affect me. Well, it probably affects me a little bit, but not to nearly the extent that it obviously affects pretty much everybody else in society. So that's my story, I think. I'd still like to hear your story, really, if you just want to say why you think you are thinking along these lines in the comment section below. That would be interesting to read. But I'll just leave it there for today with those thoughts. So it's Tim from Fair Play Now. Thanks for watching.